income we invest in the R&D side, and past several years we are launching several innovative products which is targeting the particular application and the particular market. We are also very committed for the digital solutions. We having our digital powertrain solution as well as the monitoring center, one of them also in Dubai, where we are monitoring all our drives which are connected globally. So we having the global coverage. We always want to be closer to our customer and the partners. We are across all the region. We are more than 100 plus countries, factories around 40 factories around 10 countries, 300 plus authorized provider and 6,000 plus channel partners we have. So what is ABB purpose? Sustainability is something inbuilt with us. Integrity and transparency is part of our strategy all the time, and we are committed for the Paris Agreement for 2030. In our own operation, we are committed to achieve the carbon neutrality by 2030. Also, we are very committed to use at least 80% of our waste to be recycled. Okay, so we've seen a lot, we're talking a lot about sustainability. Across with all the people, all the delegates, they are asking about. We as a technological provider, that is our responsibility to bring those ideas actual in the operation. So we are going to have the real advantage out of it. So there are some key factors. So sustainability is actually a very large of bit, but energy efficiency is one of the very portion which is covering. Also the waste reduction as well as the water optimization. A few years back, maybe this is not a topic for the food and beverage industries, but now as the time going on, we see that the food industry consume at least 30% of the whole world energy. So it's very obvious, also considering how the world population is growing, how we are going to be doubling our economy and all. So it's very, very obvious topic which has to be tackled. So if you see a typical food and beverage granular view, there is a lot of sub-segment, there's a lot of applications, and company like ABB, that is our responsibility that we bring those solutions to the industries. And for the energy efficiency, it has to be very optimized way. We have to see which segment, which application we have to handle it. For instance, we having our solution, for example, a highly efficient motor up to IE5 level, along with the variable speed drive, it can save up to 50% of the energy. If we talk about sugar industry, our multi-drive system is for the regenerative process. Our permanent magnet motors, which is up to IE4 class, also it has the ability to deliver the high torque even on a low speed. So it saves energy. Also, the power factor is 0.97, so also it's maintain the network quality. If we talk other dairy or beverage where a lot of pumps, fan are going to be used, if you see electrical agriculture, which is also consuming a lot of energy, so our solution for electrical motors and variable speed drive, along with the inbuilt softwares that help and make sure that each drop of water go to the soil. One of also very is cooling and refrigeration is consuming a lot of energy in any plants. At least 60 to 70% energy is consumed by the cooling and refrigeration system. So if you see a very typical how the cooling and refrigeration works, so if we going to use a closed loop automated system along with our PLC inbuilt softwares, drives, and we tackle each and every point as a collective way, so we can save a lot of energy. We save a lot of energy means saving the cost, improving the profitability, also reducing the CO2 emission. Same example for the pumps, which is used largely in the industry. And if we optimize the pump speed based on the load requirement in the closed loop, if we reduce the speed by 20%, we can reduce the consumption by 50%. So these are the proven solution which is available. Not just energy saving by variable speed drive, also we increase the lifetime of the product, also lowering the maintenance cost. All right, so we are having the inbuilt solution for the digitalization, which is the part of our strategy. So digitalization and remote monitoring help customer to take the right decision on the right time. So if your devices are connected, there is a typical example of we have the variable speed drive, then we have the AC motors, mechanical bearing, then pumps. So all these sensors, all the data has been connected on the cloud, and our AI system base customer to take a decision. So we no need to wait for the product to be failed. So we move from the preventive predictive maintenance. Okay, so digital also help for the full life cycle. So we can choose the point where we want to put the digitalization, we connect it to the network, and then we add the services for the full life cycle of the product. ABB also launched energy efficiency movement. As we see that the population is growing, urbanization is growing a lot, we are doubling our economy. So demand of energy is also growing, and a lot of electrical motors are coming in the field. So of course, we cannot eliminate the electrical motor from the process. So what we can do, how we can contribute, we can reduce the CO2 emission by using the highly efficient motor at the variable speed drive. So motor is very critical, and we as a ABB, we putting a lot of focus on it, and as per estimated, at least 45% of the world energy going to the motors. So investing in upgrading this motor with the efficient solution can save a lot to achieve the sustainability target what we are talking. So adding drive is a matter. If we target those firm, fan, compressor, critical application where we having the high energy consumption up to above 100 kilowatt to 315 kilowatt range, so we can save 25% of the energy. So there are 300 million motors running in the world, and if we able to invest in the energy efficiency, we can save 10% of the world energy. So the way forward. So all the stakeholder has a key role to play. A technical company like us in ABB, it is our responsibility to offer the energy efficient solution to the customer. Of course, the CapEx is always a challenge for the end user and challenge to the OEM to match those CapEx challenges. But once we invest in the CapEx in the beginning, we are going to reduce our operational cost. And there is a lot which might sometime we are not able to see it, but I'm very sure that platform like this where the top leaders are very serious about sustainability. So this is the one of the part of those sustainability target to achieve. And explain the values like what I'm doing right now, that using the technology, how we can really achieve those sustainability target, maybe some of the KPI we can achieve, and we can start using advantage out of it. Another point is public decision makers, regulatory body and authority. Even yesterday also we heard a lot about incentivize the industry, especially food and beverage, which is not known for using innovation traditionally, and the technology because of the commodity cost is very, very challenging for all of us. So if government and regulatory bodies help and work with us to implement this technology and innovation, what we are developing, and we are also executing in the other part of the world. So this is not something, as Mr. Gurer has said, that we should not afraid of the failure. But these solutions are already proven. They are already happening in the world. What are the data we have that is already proven? So it's just a matter of the industry leaders, authorities to implement it. Also, investment is one of the challenge. So people have to think about it, how to divert the investment on this kind of company, which are really serious about to handling the climate risk. So at last, it cleared that deploying more highly energy efficient motors, variable speed drives, and connecting with the digital, we can really achieve the greater energy efficiency solution, cut the CO2 emission, and that's the way we can really gonna to achieve it. So that's the message we want to give it. We are your partners, not just a supplier. We are working very close with the industries and listening your problems, and we are giving the customized solution. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. Thank you so much for that. Very insightful look at your side of the business. Our next speaker brings along with her 26 years of consumer goods experience in the industry. She has lived and worked in 6 different countries. I'll just name a few. Australia, that's her hometown, Vietnam, United States, as well as South Africa. Please welcome Kate Goodman. She's a business unit president, Middle East, North Africa, and Pakistan at Mondelez International. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you, Jessie, and hello to my food and beverage colleagues. Nice to be here this afternoon. As Jessie said, my name is Kate Goodman, and I am very proud to lead the business of Mondelez International across Middle East, North Africa, and Pakistan. We are a team of passionate makers and bakers, and our purpose is to empower people to snack right. You'd probably know many of our brands. We help you stay playful with Oreo. We remind you there's a glass and a half of goodness in everyone with Cadbury Dairy Milk. And we help prepare kids for a better future every day with Tang. But that's enough about Mondelez. What I'm here to talk about today is around gender diversity, gender equality, and importantly, inclusion. A very important topic for the Future Food Forum and in the broader context of Dubai Expo 2020. As we get our sector future ready, it is important that we work together to create a culture and reshape our actions and mindsets as it comes to gender representation in our industry, and help build an environment where every individual, regardless of their gender, can be successful, can have equal rights, equal opportunities, and equal access. One point I'd like to start from is that I'm honoured to be talking about this topic in the UAE. UAE clearly embraces gender diversity and is a leader on many fronts and has set forth many initiatives to help empower women in many industries and sectors. Today, women in the UAE account for 66% of public sector workers and 30% are in leadership positions. Women in the UAE cross many sectors. They're business leaders, they're firefighters, they're scientists, they're ministers, they're parliamentarians, they're educators, and they're even astronauts. Women are empowered, valued, and included. And they will continue to be the driving forces, along with their male colleagues, to help ensure UAE stays at the forefront on global equality and forefront in the globe on gender equality. Now let's turn to the food and beverage sector in our region. And I think it's fair to say we have a challenge when it comes to women representation in our industry. I scanned the agenda over the last 2 days of this Future Food Forum, and I noted that 25% of the speakers and panellists were women. And I think that's probably a reasonable yardstick for the women represented in our industry more broadly in the region and certainly at senior leader levels. But we do have amazing women leaders in our ranks, and many are in the room today. And I would like to make a special recognition and acknowledgement of the amazing women role models we have in the room. You are leading the way and paving the way for the future generation of women leaders. Thank you for all that you're doing. I'd also like to thank the men in the room. You are our allies, our mentors, and our sponsors. And I know I certainly wouldn't be where I am today in my career without amazing male colleagues that have supported and encouraged me throughout my career. But I think we can all recognise that we have more work to do. And as we get future ready, I know the industry as a whole is committed to better gender representation. And it's important to remind ourselves why. This is not just a commitment to champion diversity and inclusion because it's the right thing to do. It also makes business sense. When our workforces represent the consumers and shoppers that we serve better, our organisations become more consumer-centric, more creative and innovative, and ultimately perform better. It's also tied into how we remain competitive regionally and globally. Now, to turn our aspiration of gender equality and gender balance into reality, we do need to address a number of challenges that are ahead of us as an industry. Some of it includes an industry biased towards men in leadership positions. I do want to say I am proud at Mondelez. In MENAP, 40% of my leadership team are women. And that's something we're very pleased about because it is ahead of the industry. But we're not satisfied until we get to that more balanced number. Some other challenges as an industry that we front into is around organisational cultural norms and bias, whether that be unconscious or conscious bias that plays out. Attracting STEM qualified women to our industry and the general perception of manufacturing overall. More women in commercial and P&L ownership roles, as well as limited sponsorship and mentorship for women. If we look at what women want in an industry, we also have to face into some of those realities. Just like our male counterparts, women want challenging and interesting assignments. We want attractive and equitable pay, and work-life balance factors in as well. And this has been heightened even further with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. The arrival of COVID-19, it fundamentally hit societies, economies, and it turned all of our lives upside down. And I want to highlight the significant impact it particularly had on women. Women bore disproportionately more working hours through the pandemic, and that included 3 times more unpaid work hours for caring and domestic work than their male counterparts. Juggling work from home, with homeschooling children, with the endless Zoom calls, that big blur of barriers between work and life, it just became all-encompassing. Women's experiences at home, at work, with their health and their well-being have been impacted. And I think there's learnings for all of us through this pandemic around what women will want when it comes to work-life balance and how flexible work arrangements must be part of the new normal, not just for women, but also for men as well. Now, as business leaders, we have a huge role to play here, to listen, to be change makers, help break stereotypes, and deconstruct misconceptions around women's roles. The question remains, how as an industry can we come together to challenge the status quo, drive a purposeful plan to make our sector, the food and beverage sector, a truly gender diverse and inclusive industry, and we need to challenge our mindsets, the way we work, and the way we also market our sector out there as well. Corporates need to update their policies and practices and make sure their people and culture plans are thinking about gender representation and diversity in its broader sense. And let's remember that diversity is broader than gender. It's about inclusion, respect, and appreciation of different cultures, experiences, and ideas. And I believe passionately that for the benefits of diversity to play out, a truly inclusive culture is required, one where everyone is treated with integrity and respect. As an industry, we need to make our stand clear on this. Some of the steps we can all take are tackling gender bias head-on, closing the senior level gap of women in leadership, creating a more flexible work environment, fostering mentorship and sponsorship opportunities, and reaching out, nurturing and attracting the younger generation from universities into our industry with a particular focus on STEM. And I've loved seeing the examples of the Food and Beverage Innovation Lab. I think that's a great example of elements we could do as an industry. I believe that we are on the right path, but the journey still continues. I do think the future of food is exciting. I do think the future of food also includes better gender representation in our industry. It's the right thing to do for our industry, for our businesses, and for society at whole. Let's work together to make it happen. Thank you very much for your time, and I now look forward to a really exciting all-women panel. So Jessie, I think you're going to help me introduce everyone.
Thank you so much, Kate. Thank you. We just had our roles reversed, yeah? You're inviting me on stage. All right, so you can go ahead, find your seat on our panel as I invite the rest of our fabulous panelists. Thank you, very inspirational insight as well. So as Kate has mentioned, this is a bit of a women-focused panel to give an insight about female representations in the food industry. In order to do that, allow me to invite our fellow panelists, and then we'll get into some facts and figures on the topic. I will start with Her Excellency Ali Al-Mazroui, Advisor to Chairman, Abu Dhabi Department of Economic Development. Welcome to our panel. Please welcome also Mona Ghobashi, Scientific and Regulatory Affairs Director, Global Emerging Markets at Mars Wrigley. And I believe these are, yes, this is us, number 4. I believe Lamia may not be able to join us. Thank you so much. Nice to see you face to face. Good to mention that I've met these ladies over Zoom, and this is the first time we meet actually, physically, and exchange stories. Right, so let's get on to it, because ignore the 5 minutes. There's no way we're having 5 minutes. It's our turn, and this says 4 minutes, so please reset that timer. We're taking more than 4 minutes because I said so. Thank you very much. Quick facts and figures I managed to gather before I start with you ladies giving us an insider look. Women, according to my brief research, make up only a third of F&B manufacturing jobs, a number that has dropped to 21% when it comes to senior executive levels. Mind you, these are numbers that were done in a McKinsey study in the United States, because I couldn't find similar numbers for the Middle East, but it may give us a little bit of a picture of the representation. In the US as well, basically, in the Middle East, here's an interesting number I found, that women are one of the most powerful segments affecting consumer choices. So over 80% of product decision-making and purchasing power in households in the Middle East are actually women. Yet, when it comes to representation, that number obviously drops down, although I don't have a specific figure. Interestingly enough, also in the US, despite all the gender gap initiatives and all the reports that come on advancement of female representations, only 7% of head chefs and restaurant owners in the United States are women. And this is basically one of the most advanced industries in the world. So let's see, where do we stand? Your Excellency, we'd love to maybe start with you before I guess, because we got a good insight from you, Kate. You've heard a lot of the points that were mentioned today. You're also on the side where initiatives are being taken, programs are being launched. A lot of support is happening for female entrepreneurs in this region. Give us a little bit of a look from your perspective on the gender gap. What is your assessment, and where do we stand with women representation in the industry here?
If I talk specifically in the region, in the Emirates, there's a huge support for women in general in different sectors, not specifically in food and beverage. And if I talk about more the enablement part of programs that we worked on enabling for women, One of the initiatives we worked on is She Means Business for females under Khalifa Fund. And the support we provided around 1,600 female training programs, digitalizing aspects for females. Other programs also worked closely with them was the FNB Innovation Lab, how to create local products to go globally. So from the first phase, there were 3 successful products that are coming out also soon. And other programs we also worked on during COVID was more of the enablement and digitizing. A lot of the business are more of product-based, and with COVID happening and all the shutdown that happened, everything has been converted into online and delivery and logistics. So that was a gap we found that we wanted to enhance on building programs for females.
Definitely, we're seeing some results specifically of these programs. Mona, from your perspective, you've had several leadership positions where you've also had to make decisions or maybe change your style, change your leadership style to be more inclusive. Give us your perspective on this.
So I would say that having a leadership in women, this is really awesome because you have to have a role model in your life. So I can claim that I was really lucky enough during my 20 years career experience in the scientific and regulatory affair that I was lucky to have almost 16 role model women I'm reporting to. So they really impacted me and impacted the way I am doing the business. I'm talking about technical things, I'm challenging and navigating through the challenges we face. Also, this helped me to build my leadership styles. So definitely we have to be authentic, we have to keep our identity, but at the same time we have to flex our leadership styles to have an inclusive and also to fit all the cultural diversities and all the levels in the organization. I can say that in terms of the gender gap, yesterday was really a very good testimony on how we went really far. So in Mars, we launched our new mindset of the growth mindset, where we say progress is the new perfect. And yesterday, Her Excellency Mariam Al-Maheri is really a big testimony in this. She led the country of the food agenda where COVID was there, which is really tough situation. And if we look at it, shelves were not empty from food, and now she's holding a bigger agenda as well. In food and beverage, I can say that the organization now that is holding this event, they secured us a lot of opportunities. So we have a regulatory committee, which is the main thing we are talking. This is maybe the edge I'm bringing here about the STEM and women in STEM. So we have 90 representation membership in the regulatory committee, and we have almost equal opportunities for men. And 5 powerful female are leading the different sectors. So I'm honored to lead the confectionery sector, regulatory agenda. We have someone leading the labeling, the beverage, and also meat and poultry, and the halal topic. So we have really a very good representation. But this doesn't mean that we are really still in the perfect situation. We need to do more and more, and we have a lot of opportunities. So in UAE, they launched the Gender Balance Council based on the cabinet decision, which we collaborate with other companies in the MCBG, the multinational working group, to set some rules and some ambition in order to have the unleashed opportunity for women to have more women in the future in the leadership positions.
A very similar perspective. Maybe, Kate, I was going to ask you about the challenges that you faced, maybe forming your own team. I will still ask you this question, but we're going to play around a little bit. I would like you to add into it, what are the challenges you faced, yes, amassing this team. However, keeping in mind this let's call it criticism I keep hearing, that people are or leaders sometimes are misinterpreting the term women empowerment, and it really doesn't matter to have 50-50 representation as much as it matters to have qualified employees, whether male or female. So sometimes it doesn't have to be 50-50. It's okay if it is 60-40, as long as you have the right people, the right education or background or experience, regardless of their gender.
Yeah, it's an interesting area. So, yeah, as I said earlier, my leadership team at Mondelez in MENA we're currently sitting just over 40% as our percentage of women in our leadership team. And it has started from intent. So setting a clear goal in our strategy of where we want to be. And that goal of 50-50 isn't because we want to be equal. It is because we want to represent our consumer and shopper base, right, and the general population. Now, that does not mean I have unqualified women in my leadership team. What it means is I have intent every time a leadership team position comes up on making sure I have a balanced slate of candidates that I consider. And then they get appointed based on their merits, their experiences, their qualifications, etc. So I do think while an intent and a target is important to drive momentum, at the end of the day, every woman here wants to be there because of their merits, right? Not because of a quota. And so ultimately it is about making sure you actively search for qualified candidates, have a balanced slate to choose from, and then ultimately pick the right person for the job at the time.
Your Excellency, I know you have a comment on this because I remember when we briefly chatted, you had a similar, let's say, maybe concern. And you mentioned something interesting to me, and you said we need to think differently about women representation. Can you elaborate on that? How differently?
I think with women representation, I think we need to look at, as Kate mentioned, the quality and competency of females in different sectors. So you might have people who are very aware in specific sectors that could give and not given the chance. So I think, from my experience and with organizations I've led, I tend to give more empowerment for junior staff because they have more ideas and more innovative ways of doing work.
But when you tell me that the way we're thinking of women representation is not necessarily conducive or positively engaging women, what do you mean by that? Do you think that is it women employees who need to think differently about their own qualifications? Is it the employers? Is it the education system that's not attracting females in the STEM?
I think it's more differently. It's culture, it's upbringing, it's education, and it's the whole ecosystem we live around. Nothing in specific, but the way you lead growth within yourself. Mm. You don't need someone to say it's women empowerment or you're different. You need to be able to instill growth within you.
If I may continue that point with you, I know you're smiling, but I would like to add to it another layer, digitization. A lot of experts currently will tell us that digitization has sort of leveled the playing field. Now, a lot of tools are available, free courses, almost everything you can do to upskill yourself and learn new skills or languages or whatever it is available for us. So why do you think is there still this gap when it comes to representation when digital tools have accelerated so many fields?
So I totally agree with you. Digitalization now is everywhere and a lot of trainings are there. So also maybe building on this, that we acknowledge that there is still an unconscious bias. So training and unconscious bias is really common. In Mars, 100% of the associates and the leadership team is trained now. But it's the opportunity to take this. So I think we have to embed also in our culture that women need to be more courageous. They have to take the opportunity. Laws are there, policies are there.
In what way? I mean, allow me to be inquisitive a little bit. What do you mean they need to be more courageous? How?
More courageous in defining what they need and then go and do actions towards what they really need. So now if I look into the STEM, we really acknowledge the fact that we don't have many women or females in some parts, like in the factories. Or,
yes.
But when I talk about regulatory and scientific affairs, within my organization in the global emerging markets, I can tell you we are 38 associates and 34 of female. So I think that it came from the passion around the responsibility itself. The background, maybe food science, nutrition. So those are the things that when we define that we need to go for this area of studying and going for those courses, we define our career. And they have to also be courageous to find their ways and to find the tools that they can rely on. I can tell you that there is a big campaign we have also that here to be heard. So women also need to be bold and need to say what we need. And based on this, Mars is really willing to invest more and more to have a concrete actions based on what the women said that we need to do this. So it's about our willingness, about the opportunities that we can seek, but opportunities are there. And we have a lot of examples here from powerful women. They took the opportunity, they decided to do it, and then they went for it.
Kate, from your perspective as a leader and a business manager as well, I've seen a limited amount of studies that were trying to prove why should there be inclusivity and what is the effect on more balanced teams on productivity and why mixed teams, whether culture or gender, can increase productivity.
Yeah, I think there are studies out there proving that diversity in the broader sense, gender, culture, experiences, we talked age, all dimensions of diversity. When that's brought into an inclusive culture, it sparks creativity, right? When everyone's thinking differently and hearing different perspectives, more closely representing the consumer base, creativity increases, innovation increases, and hence business performance and growth is better. I think the other thing is more diverse firms or companies get recognised, and talent are looking for that. I've seen a study that says just over 60% of women look at the diversity of the leadership team before they determine whether it's a company they're willing to work for. So if you don't have a diverse leadership team, you might be missing out on an amazing group of talent because they're looking for somewhere that looks more like them. So that can be another factor as well. I think you could lose talent if you're not proving that you're diverse and inclusive. So I think it comes in both ways, attraction of talent and then the creativity and innovation that comes.
Alia, if I may go back to you on an interesting percentage. I always use numbers because it's the only way we can prove something. A recent study, I believe MasterCard had published it, said wonderfully that 80% of women entrepreneurs in MENA region succeeded in representing their businesses in a digital format. So they did a pretty good high rate when it comes to digital representation. Unfortunately, this high percentage did not translate for them when it came to financial funding and finding sources to fund their business compared to their male counterpart. So answering this, Mona, females, entrepreneurs specifically, are putting themselves out there digitally, but that's not giving them the return financially. So I'd like to hear from you a little bit about, one, do you think SMEs, and I know the UAE is really avant-garde in giving them tools and financing, are getting the right tools to represent and grow their businesses, specifically women, and what are some of the initiatives you can tell us?
So things we've worked on in Khalifa Fund is the membership programs and funding programs. We work for both male and females, so Khalifa Fund is open for every Emirati here, and we're not very gender specific. So you have the idea, we help you on all the counseling, business planning and everything. Once you're ready, the funding happens based on the sectorial approvals of what sectors are you focusing and working in. So programs are there in place, right counseling, and one of the programs we worked on specifically during COVID is a turnaround program. Turnaround, basically that businesses that were not doing well during COVID, how can we turn around the business and make it succeed?
That's much needed, especially when it comes to mentoring, which is again a nice example from the Innovation Lab. Mona, if I can ask you, when it comes to policies specifically, going forward, what policies or changes would you like to see corporates doing? And I know I can think of some policies, but I won't mention, are really outdated. So give us some examples.
I think that the recent decision by the cabinet in UAE related to the maternity leave and expanding them to 3 months, this was really very good. The equality in the payment as well, it was a cabinet decision. And when we talk about corporate flexible hours, I think Kate mentioned a lot about this, so flexible hours, expanding the maternity leave, introducing more trainings for the leadership in women, and it was really an interesting one by Harvard where they launched the Women Lead Purposefully. So we have to have our purpose as well when we lead and consider the purpose, being the authenticity as well. So I think that more of training, more of encouragement, and male allies. So this is very important, and the power of collective actions. So it's not only about corporate, it's also about government. So when we have those kinds of collaboration and bridges in order to have more women educated, coming from the STEM as well, this is very important.
I would like to stay with you a little bit on maybe some numbers. You are a fan of statistics as well, and numbers. Yes, and percentages. You've mentioned to me that you have some numbers that you can share with us, specifically when it comes to female representations in factories and in sales. Do you still have that handy?
I don't have the, so in general, now in the UAE also, the 56% of the graduates from the STEM courses are women. I can proudly say that in Saudi, our factory as well, we are working on the project to hire women in the factory, and we managed to hire the female for our sales force as well. And we had the Mars Leadership Program where we also hired many people there. And in Egypt, we hired 14 female in the factory, our chocolate factory, on 24/7 rotation base. So there are a lot of numbers. If the time will not be enough to talk about them.
Yeah, no, just the highlights.
Stories,
yeah. Okay, great. Kate, how do you think, or what should the priorities be for corporates to look into or work on for assuring or improving the gender balance on their team?
Look, I think I think a number of things have already been mentioned, right? I think you do have to get your policies and practices in place, but I think more importantly, what I'd like to stress is culture. A culture of inclusion is so important, right? And
takes a long time to change.
It takes a long time to change
mindset.
Culture, and especially when bias is in place, and bias can be unconscious, and we all have unconscious bias, right, that we need to front into and check ourselves on. So I think corporates have to do a lot on culture, education around bias, unconscious and conscious. I think that's a big one for ultimately the benefit of diversity to play out. And I think the other one I'd push for our industry is, you mentioned it a little bit, there are a couple of areas where the representation is really poor. Manufacturing and sales tend to be them in our industry.
And C-suite level, almost, I've looked at numbers, executives in literally every country around the world. C-suite for women is less than 20%.
And at the executive level, of course. So, I think a lot of us are trying to go after the leaders. I think the functions of manufacturing and sales is something that I think we need to think creatively about programs to attract women and give them a chance in these sorts of functions. And I've seen it time and again. I first started this in Vietnam probably 13 years ago. When we got some of the young women into sales, they were amazing, right? And there was a mindset change of their male counterparts, because in their mind they said, no, women can't do this job. It's hot outside. They're on motorbikes. It's humid. It's not a role for women.
It's a perception,
right?
It's a perception.
And once you give young women a chance, it's amazing what they can do, and it's amazing what men suddenly see is possible as well for their women colleagues, and they become big supporters and part of the solution. So I think just try some of these things out, and I'm sure everyone will be surprised the benefits that flow through from this. And I think if we all try and attack these sorts of areas, we'll make progress we will make progress. Maybe not as quick as we'd like, but we'll get there.
So let me toss this question over you. It wasn't planned, so I'm going to do it because why not? All four of us come from different cultures, okay? All four of us have different experiences, different backgrounds that we come from, yet I can almost confirm, if I tell you this statement, you will agree with me. I know it's true for myself. Every single time I've received a position, a job, whatever it is, professionally, I felt innately, without even saying it out loud, that I have to work 3 or 4 times harder than usual because I wanted to prove that I could do it, even though nobody told me. Nobody came and said, oh, you have to prove and you have to do good. What is that? I mean, why is it still the case? And I discuss this with my counterparts a lot, and they all tell me they have the same feeling, although we don't know where it's come from. We know it's culture. But one, is this still true for you? And you've all achieved very different high levels in your careers. And 2, when do we get rid of this feeling?
I think we always thrive, we want to do better, regardless. It's an inner thing. Like going back to school, I want to be a student, and then university, and then graduating, I want to find a job. And I think it's only a thrive you have within you that you want to do better and prove yourself.
And I would say that it's again part of the unconscious bias. So we are treating ourselves like this actually. So seeking the perfection and overburdening ourselves with overcommitment is really a problem. So my recommendation, if I might say some recommendation here, that we have to really acknowledge the effort that we are doing. We have to trust ourselves, and also we have to be flexible with ourselves. So we will achieve our targets, but with a calm way, and also if we feel that we are overburdening ourselves in one facet and the other, so we need to be really proud that we are mothers, sisters, we are athletes, and we are working as well. So it's the balance between doing everything at the same time, but with equality in terms of what we are doing, not only with equality with men, and we need to fight for it to do the best. I don't feel it now, maybe because of the age or the experience, but yeah, definitely in the beginning, early beginning of our career, we started to concept.
Be down to representation, because now the forefront of women representation in our industries, you don't have a lot of the role models there. So you are the role model for others, and that comes with responsibility and burden, and that's why we want to do well, right? Because we know we're paving the way. I think the other thing I reflect on is women, I think, have a more fear of failure, and they do have a perfectionist streak. But as we've heard time and again, when it comes to innovation and learning, failure is part of the process. And so taking a chance, taking a role that you don't think you're ready for and giving it a go and learning, failing fast, learning fast is all part of the process in a career. And that's something that I actually, a lot of men do that extremely well. And I think, some of the women need to learn from our male counterparts about that. Even if you only think you're 60% ready for a role, put your hand up, give a go, learn, develop. And put a foot forward. I think there's a lot to learn from our male counterparts in that regard.
Right. Before I go over and get maybe one advice or your main takeaway from this session, I know there's a lot of males who are eager to ask a question or two. I can see it on your faces. We can squeeze in maybe 2 questions if we have any, or females. You're welcome, obviously. And there are microphones that will be handed over to you. Are there any questions, or should we move on? I'm not wearing my glasses, so if you see someone, you let me know.
There's one in the back.
I don't know. I see someone. Okay, one lady. All right, let's take a quick round of questions, and then I'll go over to wrap things up.
Hi, Milena from Allium Farms. I want to thank you for this lovely topic we've seen today. I think you tackle a lot of the bias that is happening in the industry. And my question would be the following. When we talk about, you mentioned quickly the double standards and the bias. How would you, from your perspective, say it is the best way to deal with without being aggressive or seeming too rude when the bias is a question? Thank you so much.
There's a lot of, I'm sorry, I would ask you to try and do, there's a lot of echo in your audio, so all I heard was biases and how do you tackle it? Can you?
Yeah, so basically that was my question. How would you tackle the bias that happens in the industry when you're moving up the ladder, the more bias will be there?
Yeah.
And sometimes you are not judged by your merit, as we've talked about, but the fact only that you're being a female in the industry.
Okay, I think there's a lot of echo, so I couldn't hear properly, but if I get this correctly, she's asking how do you tackle the issue of biases, considering that the higher you move up the ladder, the more the biases, conscious and unconscious, for women. How would you attempt to deal with that? Who would like to tackle the unconscious biases?
I think maybe during our discussion, so first thing is have the training. So if every one of us have the opportunity to understand what does it mean bias and what does it mean conscious and unconscious bias, this is important. And then the trust. I think we have to trust ourselves and we have to trust that people's perception is not what we think about. So maybe we are, again, over-investing on some perceptions, and it's important that we trust what we do in order to reduce this feeling of this bias.
May I ask you, Alia, maybe your main takeaway, if there is one message that you want the attendees today, whether in the food industry or public sector or students, we have some students watching us today, what would it be?
The main intake, I have two hats. I have the private sector hat and the public sector hat. So I'm one of the investors in FNB. So always thrive and believe on the idea you have, and make sure you have the right people around you to support you in making things happen. On a governmental level, the support given to females is very critical, and we are always here to help each other, regardless what sectors we are in. And that's it.
Kate, what would be your main takeaway, the main message you want the whoever is watching you today to take with them? Could be an advice, could be an anecdote, could be basically...
I would maybe put a challenge out there to everyone in the room.
Let's do that. Why not? Let's do that. Spice things up. People are getting tired. Let's put a challenge.
I mean, I'm looking at the men as well as the women in the room, right? And hold a mirror up to yourself and think about what more you can do to advance diversity and inclusion in your organisations. Something tangible that you could do tomorrow to help the cause. And then to women, probably linking into my previous comment, be courageous, take some of those risks. You are inspiring already in your own rights. Let's build the next generation of women leaders and make sure representation in food and beverage industry continues to improve.
Wonderful. I'm going to conclude with you and your takeaway message.
I would build on what Kate said by saying, be a role model. I think this is what really I benefit from, and from the corporate, be intentional to add the programs and to have fairness when you develop your policies about recruitment, hiring, and also the development and the career opportunities. Have a transparent discussion about opportunities that can be offered to women, and support women and females to reach to their full potential.
Wonderful. I'm going to, my advice specifically for any female students is I'm going to conclude with this little anecdote which physically happened before I came to this event. I was getting dressed, coming from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. One of my children was dropped to school, and the other toddler was saying goodbye. He's 3. And he runs over to the door to say bye, and I pick him up and he says, Mama, I have owie. He says, something's hurting. And I said, why? What's wrong? He usually does that when I leave. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he threw up all over my brand new suit, 6 in the morning, and I'm walking out the door and I'm thinking to myself, oh no, he's sick, I have a big event I cannot cancel. Sorry, I did think of canceling for about 40 seconds. And here I was at the door with barf all over my brand new suit and a cute little 3-year-old saying, Mama, don't go. And automatically some hat came on. I didn't, it just was very robotic. I put him down. I got help from my husband, from the nanny. I went up to shower, called the doctor, got my toddler with his father to the doctor's appointment, put another suit, and was on my way to Dubai. And here I am today, happy that I didn't cancel. My boy is all right. He is on antibiotics for an ear infection, but everything is okay. My advice to young students or females, and I've done that in my career and education, I never thought of what I'm doing from the perspective of my gender. You just do it. Doesn't matter if you're male or female. You do what you have to do. Had his father had the same situation as me, he would have done the same thing. I would have taken care of my boy and he would go on to his job. So don't go on in your life as a female thinking of yourself as a woman. When it comes to career, just do what you have to do. With that, thank you so much. It was my honor to meet you now face to face, and hopefully I'll see you on more panels and maybe next year with even more achievements. Thank you so much for joining us. I will take... and I will note that we have ended our panel 6 minutes early on, so we give back because everything is so delayed. Now, allow me to welcome our next speaker. Thank you so much. He is the founder of Blend Hub Portable Powder Blending, PBB, and Chemometric Brain, a Dane who has lived in Spain for 30 years. He will tell you why is that interesting. And he spent his entire professional career in the agri-food sector, so he's got a lot of perspective to give us and add for today. Please welcome Henrik Stam Christensen, founder of Blend Hub Portable Powder Blending and Chemometric Brain. Where is the sample? I thought you would have one. You didn't bring a sample? All right, there it is. He's got some really interesting points, and I hope you will answer some of the questions we threw at you yesterday.
First of all, thank you. I think you are doing incredibly well. Yesterday, I was sitting on a table with this woman, and she just managed everything incredibly, so congratulations to that.
You.
Absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
My name is Henrik. Been in the food industry since I was 14 years old. Today, we are in UAE. We are in Dubai. And the place we are today was created by very visionary individuals around 50 plus years ago. So when we look back, and we're in such a privileged place, and most of the companies that you have seen over these last, let's say, hours and yesterday were also created by visionary people. So I think we can all agree that this is not about me, this is about us. And being about us is one of the things that I would like to share with you today, because the only way that we can truly impact is actually that we frog leap into the future together. When you sit and look, and I started that journey, I was working 12 years in a big international ingredients company that took seaweed from faraway islands and that took citrus peel, that is a subproduct of the juice industry, all the way from Latin America to Denmark to extract one single ingredient. I was completely amazed of the global supply chains. And I was sitting, let's say, basically together with you and looking back at the value chain. And I was, to my surprise, I couldn't really see what was going on. In front of my eyes, there was a huge wall that made me doubt who were the different players in this value chain. And of course, as you can see, over the last years, that has certainly not become easier, because when you sit and look and you see there is some farmers around, in the end you don't have a dimension. And one of the things that really struck me is that if we look back to the corporates that we have heard a lot of them presenting these days, most of them were created by visionary founders in the late 19th century, between 1860, 70 to around 1900. These companies have been around for more than 100 years, but for more than 100 years they have only been capable of actually producing around 20% of the world's food, but they take 80% of the value. So what struck me again was, what about the rest? And I started understanding that 80% of the world's food is produced by 500 million small, medium enterprises and farmers that have very little understanding. If this is difficult for me, I'm sure it's difficult for many of you, and it's certainly difficult for the ones that are very, very far up or back, depending on how we look at it in the value chain. So I set out to actually start thinking about how we could change that dilemma. So in 1997, my goal, like any businessman, was that actually I wanted to give understanding and access to two things that are available all over the international food industry, that are recipes and ingredients. So when you start thinking about recipes and ingredients, from your house to the restaurants to the industry, this is what we are talking about, all of us, every single day. Independently of the fancy words we put on, it's all about recipes and ingredients. And because I'm, let's say, trying to make it as simple as possible for myself, I said, how do we solve that? And of course, I was so lucky, being a Dane in Spain, as Jesse said, that actually we were very lucky when we started. I was already in Spain for the multinational, so I had a lot of customers on the Spanish market. And in 2002, I got through network, freelancers, or people working in this area, I got access to the Middle East industry. And at that time, there was no taxes, there were no import tax, so it was easy to produce in Spain. So we got some very good contacts that we have kept over all these years, and we exported product into UAE, Saudi Arabia, and so on and so forth. So in 2004, when you look around, and again, you're an entrepreneur and you're a business mindset, you said, what do I do? Because I want to impress my customers, I want to do it better. So I went to Germany to buy the best machinery in the world. And that best machinery in the world, of course, needed to be installed in Spain and to be digitized. We installed that. It took 36 months, and it cost me 15 million euros of my own pocket. And when I sat down and I finished the project as an entrepreneur, I said, before I die, I can maybe do 3, 4. I will certainly not take another 100 years. So I told my people that actually this was my museum. And this was where I understood that the static factory was Kodak. So when you see things and you're moving forward in such a complex industry as the one that we all are inside, you say, again, this is my new challenge, so what do I do about this? So I said to my engineers, come here, let's make the letter to Santa Claus. So I want this, I want that, and you know this, and if we can put the factory in a 40-foot container and we can deploy it anywhere in the world in less than 6 months, then we can suddenly localize production and I can build hundreds. And actually, the result is what you're seeing behind. Several of the big machinery producers around in the world and said to me, this is worth nothing. It's actually a blending, a preparation, a blending, a packaging, and a quality control factory in a 40-foot container. I said, I'm going to patent it. You can't do that. Today we have a patent in 85 countries. You can do everything you envision. And you should never listen to that this is not possible. And this is why I feel very comfortable here, because I think that many people here in this region are willing today to challenge the status quo, just as we did ourselves. So once you have the factory, then you start saying to yourself, what happens actually inside the factories and the door next door to the factory? And then I start looking at the labs, because recipes, ingredients, localized factories, production. But what about the lab? What about the whole ideation around labs? We've heard about health, food security. And then I saw this photo there and I said, listen, in the lab industry, nothing happened in 80 years. Still the same people. Maybe they have some more sophisticated equipment. And I saw all this equipment. I didn't have a clue about what they were doing. But I started thinking about what if actually we change the way we control food. And because, again, as I did with the recipes and the ingredients and the machinery, I started looking at what kind of technology was around that we could actually build on, because at that time, of course, I learned a lot, so it was about not reinventing the wheel. So I found a technology that is called near-infrared spectroscopy, and I said, near what? And then I had a quality manager. I said, Beatrice, come here. And thanks to fantastic Beatrice, before we had a beautiful woman panel. Beatrice, she was playing the Nintendo before. I said, couldn't you play with this near and find out what we could do with that? And then she started telling me that actually it was very interesting, because the near is an imaging technology that you can actually use and you can upload into the cloud. And because of the factory you saw before, we patented it. And now we had the possibility to actually detect all incoming ingredients and final food products. I said, let's go and deploy the first hub in India. And people say, why in India? I said, because we have one recipe and we have one customer in the GCC in the beverage industry. And one of the ingredients is called guar. And people say, guar, what is that? Yeah, you know, it's something that grows on the trees down in India. Let's go there. So we deployed in India in 2011. And with this system of portable, localized food production and digitized food quality, in 18 months, we paid the whole thing. We found a building, we prepared the building, we rented the building for 5 years, we put it into a free zone, because I did not dare, if I failed, I would have to go and rescue it in India and get a thing in India and take it out again. It's a complicated thing. So actually, in 18 months, it worked so well that I said, listen, if this is feasible in India with one recipe and one customers, what was the reason? And the first reason was global supply chains again, recipes, ingredients. So we came back to an understanding and say, actually this ingredient, this recipe made us save 30% of the food price. And I said, if this is possible for one single recipe, what about all the recipes in the world? What if we localize food production anywhere in the world and we build a global platform? And my people, they were looking at me again and say, this guy he's even worse. I said, let's go to the other side of the world. Let's go to Mexico. But because, again, we had tools and we did not really know about the Mexican recipe, I sent one of my persons over there and started looking into it. And 18 months, we have grown 5 big customers in the dairy industry that were launching vegan products and beverages and so on, and it was flying as well. And then, since then, we have actually launched 8 hubs, 4 continents, in a company that is family-owned with 150 people worldwide. So you can do it. And now what is happening in the coming years is actually interesting, because we changed the concept of localized food production. We changed the concept on digitized food quality and digitized supply chains. And we now understood that the future is what we call food as a service. People talk about individualization and recipes, and everyone are developing the same thing. But what if we start looking at the final consumer prices anywhere in the world? What if we actually today are capable not only of understanding what consumers want to eat or drink at any time, what if we start thinking about the small, medium enterprises, that are capable at a local level to supply consumers with the right products, health, sustainability, nutrition built into one single food product that we can actually create together anywhere in the world. And the amazing thing is that when you do great stuff, the results eventually in the end comes. So after all these years, and after these 7 hubs, I want to deploy hundreds. And I think this region, what I have seen over the last years, turning towards manufacturing, localization, food security, health for your people, traceability, transparency, it's all in this model. It's a platform model. And the most amazing thing is that people are turning around and start looking at us. No one wanted to do that. But if these people start trusting us, that means that all of you can trust the platform as well. So the issue is that together today, we can actually create any recipe with any ingredient for food industry, for retail chains, and final consumers anywhere in the world in less than 90 days. We have been building on the platform until now hundreds of different stakeholders. In 2012, I created something called All Food Experts. In 18 months, I got 2,000 freelance formulators online from all over the globe. Many of them, by the way, these big multinationals that we know, because when they go in pension, nobody wants to go in pension today because we're all healthy and happy and we want to continue creating. So today, I created Emirati ice cream for whoever who wants to launch a safe and secure food product in any of the malls, and you can actually be there within 90 days on the platform. And this is exactly the spirit of the 80% of small, medium enterprises, entrepreneurs, the Generation C, because we want to empower. And if we are not empowering the small, medium enterprises, the farmers, and the newcomers in the entrepreneurial world, so their trip will become a little bit easier than mine that has taken 23 years to come to this point, we will have problems and we will not be able to solve the world's problems fast enough. So I offer all of you, any of the different stakeholder groups that you might find yourself in, or multiple of them, to actually join a very unique platform that we believe and that we are testing and validating and seeing that every day more and more people are coming. And we hope to be soon in the region definitively after having tried for the last couple of years to envision that. And in the next event, we can talk about having Emirati ice cream in the stores in Dubai. Thank you very much. She got scared.
Who did?
Ah, you're there.
Who, me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Gracias for that.
Un
and
placer.
thank you for maintaining the time.
So much.
Oh, that's your clicker. Okay, I will put it back and we'll take you along to your next speaker who will be also in charge of the upcoming panel. Bear with me as I switch between my documents. Your next host, your next panel moderator is in the room. I just saw her a couple of minutes ago and she's possibly getting mic'd up, or you can use the mic as we discussed. You can use the mic of the moderator seat. She has over 20 years of rich and versatile experience in the food sector, like many of you here, from both governmental and private sectors in leadership, execution, and implementation of successful organizational integrations. She's built upon her education and passion for nutrition and food services in starting her career in quality, and then joined several, here you are, organizations before moving on to her current role. Please welcome the Senior Regional Manager, Middle East at Nutricia Middle East DMCC, Shifa Al-Hala. And she will be leading the next session and inviting her panelists. Thank you, Shifa. Here is your timer. Good luck keeping up with the red clicking numbers.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, all. Actually, I'm so excited for our next panel. It is about the digitalization, how it is impact us, and the changes happened to the food and beverage industry. Before we begin, I would like to invite my fellow panelists to join me on the stage. Sheikh Naimi. I don't have my... Yeah.
Over. I think most of them are here. Yeah. Thank you.
Sheikh Naimi. We have with us also Mustafa Koita. Yusuf Tambawala. Darshana Nair. And Binoy George. Before we start, I would like actually to introduce a short introduction about our panelists today. I will start with Sheikh Naimi. Sheikh Naimi is a Commercial Operation Executive Director of Ajman Free Zone. She is playing a strategic role actually to achieve Ajman Free Zone vision to be one of the leading free zone and to attract foreign investment. She also ensures that AFZ business partners are served according to their requirements and more. She has been part of a number of remarkable achievements and recognized with many awards. Just last Thursday, we know that Ajman Free Zone was ranked the 7th globally by the FDA magazine Free Zone of the Year award, and this comes in line with the vision of His Highness Sheikh Ahmed, Chairman of the Board of the Free Ajman Zone Authority, and His Excellency Ali Suwaidi, Director General Direction with collective efforts of Ajman Free Zone team. Welcome with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
My second panelist, Mustafa Koita. Mustafa Koita, the founder and COO of Koita Food in UAE since 2013. Mustafa is an entrepreneur whose mission is to deliver tasteful, high quality and healthy food to families across the MENASA region. Actually, his vision has led him to fast globally expansion from UAE to another 10 countries, including US, with a portfolio of organic dairy, we have lactose-free and plant-based products. Your team likes to call you Chef Everything Officer, and he's with us today to talk about his vision and experience in global expansion. Welcome, Mustafa.
Thank you.
Then we have with us VP Corporate Strategy and Development at Ghassan Aboud Group, Yusuf Tambawala, with over than 23 years of experience in marketing, operation, growth entry, strategy formulation, deployment, and implementation, as well as international strategy and strategic alliances. As Vice President of Corporate Strategy and Development for Ghassan Group, Yusuf is responsible for managing the strategy for group's existing businesses and developing new growth opportunities. Prior to this, at DB World and Economic Zone World, he contributed to the Emirates Dubai Strategy Direction as the project manager for the Dubai Industrial Strategy and the e-commerce strategy. So welcome to our panel, Yusuf. Then Darshana. Darshana, the head of category planning and activation, Gulf and new markets at Mondelez. Darshana is a seasoned FMCG professional with more than 15 years of experience in food and beverage industry across Middle East, Africa, and Europe. She is specialized in strategy, business development, sales, marketing, and will bring a rich commercial angle to our discussion today. Prior to joining Mondelez, Darshana worked with major blue chip companies, including PepsiCo, Mars Wrigley's, and Arla Food. She is also very active in this space and has been a popular face of various food forums as keynote speaker and quoted in regional news publications, including Gulf News and Khalij Times. Last but not least, Binoy George, General Manager Contract Logistics at Al-Futtaim Logistics. Binoy is a creative logistician with expertise in fulfillment and last mile delivery. With more than 21 years of experience, a hands-on leader spearheading the contract logistics, cold chain, and retail operation at Al-Futtaim Logistics in the MENA region. So thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to the panel. So today we are going to discuss the challenges that happened due to the, as you know, the different challenges that we have before and after COVID, the e-commerce, the digitalization bring to the industry, and how the shift from offline to online accelerated by this pandemic. And also we will discuss the tools, the strategies from the private and government sector to prepare businesses to be agile and resilient in the new era of e-commerce revolution. So at the beginning, I would like to address one question actually to all of my panelists, and we can start with Sheikha and your insights. Can you please elaborate, describe in a few words how the overall maturity of digitalization in our region? And we know that there is a different development happened recently, and how does the food and beverage stand in the e-commerce before and after the pandemic, from the angle of semi-government
So first of all, Shifa, thank you for this introduction, and it's my pleasure to be among this crowd of expertise in food and beverage. We had witnessed the incredible development that happened in this sector in the past days and in this event. Shifa, in the recent studies, we find that the online food and beverage has speed the growth of more than 255% in 2020 of users of the e-commerce in F&B. We also encouraged the huge transformation that's happening in the industry of food and beverage when it comes to the advanced technology that is used by the companies. And due to the shift of the consumer behavior, we try to adapt these practices in the supply chain. Moreover, we find that due to the research, more than 95% of businesses will have e-trading as line of their businesses. So manufacturers, traders, retail will have a line of e-trading. And for that, Ajman Free Zone has launched a number of initiatives which we can talk of them further, but I would like to highlight that Ajman Free Zone is today part of this event for the first time. And the reason is in line with its strategy to boost the support of F&B, e-commerce, and also sustainability industry. Food security is a main pillar that we encourage companies to work toward it, according to the UAE strategy. And Ajman Free Zone has created an attractive environment to provide sufficient opportunities for manufacturer, logistics companies, and different industries in focus in F&B is one of the focused pillars. We are happy to become the home for more than 400 F&B companies currently at Ajman Free Zone. They are actively engaged in production, distribution of food in the UAE and region. And this is one of the proud pillars that always challenge us to focus on having them on track and adapting new innovations and new strategies within their sectors. Would like to highlight also that our strategic location as in the Emirate of Ajman, the value added that we have provided for the clients and for our business partners came from the goal to ensure and secure the scalability of FMB supply chain and to meet the demand for the connected markets, especially in Northern Emirate and the markets in the region. As you mentioned, the Ajman Free Zone is ranked globally, and today we play a strong player in the industry locally and globally too. Thank you.
So and I understand from you that there will be a special announcement at the end. Yes. So for the audience, stay tuned. At the end of this panel, we will have a special announcement.
Stay refreshed and wake up.
What about you, Mustafa? Can you tell us more about the maturity level of maturity of e-commerce and digitalization in the region here? From your angle, like an owner, CEO of a company, an investment here in the region, and how can you measure this here?
Yeah, so look, in terms of e-commerce, if I were to sum it up, we love e-commerce, and I think it does a couple things for us. One, for Koida, across about 10 countries, we saw about 370% of growth in just our online channel. So that's just us selling on Koida.com directly, as well as working with partners, whether it's Amazon, Gibson's, the aggregators, and whatnot. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I think e-commerce has done is it's leveled the playing fields for SMEs and big companies. So, I would consider us a growing SME. When we started out back in the days, our marketing budget was zero. Our competition had millions and billions of dollars. So as a budding entrepreneur, I was trying to find ways to get to the consumer in an efficient way and to go national in an efficient way that the big guys were already doing. And so we launched through Gibson's, Amazon, some of the e-tailers sites, and we're able to get to market cheaper and faster, basically, and go national. I'll give you an example. We launched in the United States last year in the middle of COVID, and we went national immediately by just listing on Amazon Prime. And that's something that you couldn't have done without e-commerce. Before, you'd have to go through the distributors and the painful process of listing across many retailers and things like that. The third thing that I love about e-commerce is that it gives you great information for you to pivot on. I think the biggest advantage that any SME has when you're competing against a big company, really, if you don't have as much money as them, is you've got agility. You can listen and move fast and react. You can punch faster than they can. And what we learned, for example, I'll give an example in one of the developing countries. Here in the emerging markets, our brand goes to a certain consumer segment. When we launched online in this new market, we realized that a different consumer segment was buying that product in a different way. So we quickly realized that our whole marketing strategy, if segment B is buying it, we should change our marketing strategy to go towards segment B. And I think, again, e-commerce allows you to do that because you don't get that kind of rich data when you're selling through the offline channel, and I think that's a big advantage. We've learned a lot, I made some notes on things that we've also learned, so there's some advantages, but, also online, you have to realize that customer acquisition cost is not as cheap as the click percentage that you see from a consultant, Customer acquisition actually requires just as much effort, just as much passion, just as much money in some cases as you do offline. And that is because offline you can't do sampling, you don't have impulsive buyers. When I go shopping in the store, I'm an impulsive buyer. If I see something I like, I'll try it out. You can't really, you have to search and click, sort of on the e-commerce side. I've also learned that, and I think a lot of folks here with COVID, since online grew, packaging is different, right? If you're shipping through a B2C logistics channel versus pallets going to a warehouse and then being distributed to a retailer, your packaging has to be stronger. So in the United States, our corrugated board and cases, we had to double the thickness because they were falling apart, in a New Jersey delivery or in California or something like that. And then last but not least, I think that, there's some new problems with online. So I'm not an online expert. We have consultants that work with us. And, Google AdWords, for example, we thought if we buy Koida as the Google AdWord, then when people type in Koida, our ad will come up. And then we realized that our competition is buying our words. And we started having to compete with them, on buying our own name, because our competitors are buying it. So to summarize, I think e-commerce is definitely levels the playing companies, it gets you to market quicker, but there are also new problems, that come with it. You have to be smart about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Interesting, really interesting. Yusuf, from your perspective, tell us, how do you find the level of maturity of the digitalization in the region?
Sure. Thank you, Shifa. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here at this amazing forum. So in Gassanabad, we have 4 companies. Basically, before the pandemic, we had 3 companies in the food value chain. The first was our Grandiose Supermarket. Then we had Grandiose Catering. We had Olive Country, which is our food distribution business. And during the pandemic, we saw the opportunities of digitization. We started working on digitization or digitalization of these companies. So what we wanted to do is, we wanted to take Grandiose Supermarket, which was largely a physical store format, into an e-commerce format, yet carrying on with the experience that we had in the store within e-commerce. The second thing we wanted to do is ensure that the were under a huge threat, and we were using e-commerce as an opportunity to ensure that our catering business actually survives. In fact, we've survived and we've done very well. We used to produce 6,000 meals. Today we are doing 25,000 meals. The third thing that we did was we actually digitized the entire procurement process for Olive Country, which was largely bringing in proteins like beef, lamb, and chicken into the UAE market, primarily for consumption of the UAE market. While we were carrying on this process, we identified opportunities of creating a digital marketplace. So we created a B2B digital marketplace, which is called Buy Grow, wherein the buyers are primarily bakalas and cafeterias. So we went right to the bottom of the pyramid, and the sellers were principals, manufacturers, distributors, whoever represents the principals in this market. Of course, we are quite new to the market. We launched on the 6th of December. We started really doing transactions only by March. But what we landed up doing in the process was that of that 15,000 universe that we had, we actually managed to bring about 12,500 bakalas and cafeterias onto the platform. By virtue of creating value for them, they used to get between 9 and 12 deliveries in a day. We wanted to reduce that to a single delivery in a day. They had to process multiple payments. We wanted to reduce that to a single payment opportunity for these bakalas. They didn't have to do multiple receiving processes. So we wanted to create an experience for the bakalas and cafeterias. On the other hand, we wanted to create efficiencies for the distributors, because by virtue of the aggregation that we land up doing now with Buy Grow, which is supported by our own logistics company, Galega, we've actually created efficiencies of deliveries for a lot of distribution companies, some of whom are with us in this room, and many will participate over a period of time in that. And last but not the least, for the principals, we wanted to create an information highway, because the bakalas, the low market, has always been the black hole of information for low trade. So we thought this was an opportunity to create an information highway. We are currently working with about 5 or 6 principals, where for the first time we have created in this market visibility on what's the buying habit, how real estate that they have provided in terms of coolers is being utilized. And we've showcased to some of the beverage companies how 50% of their real estate is being utilized for coriander rather than their own product, which should have been in that. So, we're sort of building in value for manufacturers as well as distributors. The journey has not been easy. It's always full of challenges. when we were working during the COVID period, there were a lot of challenges in, one, putting together an organization, which is, I mean, you know, people think it's completely ridiculous to be moving jobs during the COVID period. I myself moved jobs from my last organization to Gasanabud during COVID. But we actually showcased to them that this was an opportunity, that there was an opportunity there, and we were leveraging that opportunity. And therefore, we were able to get the best talent on board during that process.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Darshana, a brand owner company, and you are the head of the digitalization and commercial function at the company. Where we are stand from this?
Okay, first of all, thanks for having me, and very, very here in a room full of food experts. So glad to be here. Food industry have gone through multiple shifts with the onset of COVID. We have seen that. And what I was particularly looking forward was the e-commerce as a journey was towards the lowest penetrated category compared to many other categories in the digital commerce world. It needed a COVID to create that seismic shift to where we were to where we are today, right? So before the COVID, most of the brands, I've worked with a couple of organizations, we were at less than 2% of our business coming from digital sales, to all of a sudden, we have seen overnight around 80% of our shoppers shopping online. 80%, that's quite a big number. And you know what's more interesting? There were older households, there were lower income households who are not typically the online consumers. We never targeted them as our group, right? So we saw all these households shopping, and they just got very comfortable in the online shopping world. So that is a seismic shift that we saw with COVID. And another interesting is the sub-channels. So when we talk about e-commerce, we all talk about the B2C as a brand. I'm saying more from a brand side, B2C, which there are sub-channels like marketplace, omni-channels, e-grocers, or last milers, as you may call. But recently, what we are seeing with the onset of COVID, the new sub-channels are growing roots like social commerce, like cube commerce. And for all the brands that I worked with, and currently with Mondelez International, most of our brands are impulse products. You're watching a movie and you want your favorite Cadbury while enjoying the movie, and you want that bar of chocolate to arrive to you before the movie ends. That is possible through cube commerce. I am a millennial, and I know how millennials crave instant gratification. You know, we want anything, everything now. So that is possible through this cube commerce. So the new channels of digital commerce, cube commerce, these are really paving way for products like ours, impulse products. So yeah, I think as callous as it may sound, but COVID has really created a boost to the e-commerce world and a good shift. It is gonna stay, the stickiness, especially in this part of the world, is really high. But I would never say the physical stores are gonna go away. No, physical stores are here to stay. What we will see is a much more mature, to your question, Shefa, the digitization, much more matured scenario where they coexist, the offline and online kind of coexist. That's where we are now.
Yeah. And what about the logistics side, Binoy?
Thank you, Shefa. Firstly, I'd just like to say it's good to be back here in this forum with all the industry experts here. Coming out of a last period, like last year, we have seen massive shifts in, and multiple disruptions and change. Supply chains were heavily challenged in every sector. But the first reminder we get is how delicate our normal businesses can be without our people. And in a sector that we operate in, which is logistics and fulfillment, people are the ones that drive the ecosystem. So this was our first disruption challenge, making sure our fulfillment centers and our transportation units were working 24/7. Then we saw another change happening. We saw most of our customers changing their business model to B2C and digital retailing. And we saw the volumes heavily shift in that direction. And that meant we had to have a response to change the operating model, right from having frequent picks, smaller picks, the packaging requirements, and increasing all our delivery time slots. So the whole industry had a big game changer for that. It didn't stop there. Digital retailing and e-commerce started to grow in further, especially in the fresh food and the pantry products segment. The trick here is more volumes, lower cycle times. And that's happened right through the chain, whether it be from origin, whether it be your inventory planning and safety stocks, your value adds that you have to do, the order management solutions, last mile delivery, even how fast you process your returns because you had to refund your customers in time. You're not talking anymore about next day and same day. You're talking about fulfilling within a few hours now. So that is the combination that our customers were looking at: speed to market, flexing on demand, and having real-time data flow. The response to this was accelerating our technology initiatives. We are logistics, and we always prefer physical. We like physical movement of goods, and our first response is trying to increase capacity or increase manpower or increase the assets and infra. But here what we needed was looking at how we could use technology to drive our operations, how we could seamlessly connect all our systems and digitize the processes so that we can get real-life data that becomes visible, and using that data in a predictive manner and also in a proactive planning way. Integration is the key word. The supply chain has got multiple touch points with every activity having a different system, and the key was how do you integrate all that to pull live data to create proactive planning. A simple thing is, your customer would place an order, and at the same time, your carrier partner will know exactly how many slots he would have to have the capacity for a +4 temperature or a -22 temperature. And that is the leverage that you could get in that industry to fulfill faster. What we have learned and what we have experienced is that the physical moments is still important, but the future lies in understanding how to drive a data-driven operation. And with data, how you can make meaningful reports and able to plan accordingly faster. The message here is simple. It's either we digitize or we decay. So nowadays, what we see is that a heavy focus on digitizing fulfillment and last mile delivery solutions.
Great. So we learned about the advantages and the challenges that we have due to the digitalization and e-commerce. Binoy, building on what you said, how do you at Al Futtaim differentiate yourself among the other competitors in the region here? You are big, huge, working on different countries, even expanding to Saudi and Oman. So tell us how you differentiate yourself among the competitors.
As I mentioned before, the space that we do is more geared towards fulfillment. And the one thing that we have done is heavily invested into creating visibility and using the intel from the visibility for our planning and our collaboration with our partners. So we are also very well ingrained with our customers to understand their needs very quickly. And more importantly, how do we manage the product and temperature integrity throughout the cold chain, which is a critical feature in cold chain and the food sector. So nowadays what we see is real-time data that flows right from one end to another. We use the data to manage our planning, right from laying out the warehouses to managing our delivery slots and making our workforce heavily digital savvy to understand digitization processes along the way, and infusing technologies like the drones and the RFID to move information faster. That helps our customers quicker.
Yeah. And Mustafa, in the context of your expansion, the vision of expansion, this era of evolution, how does it help you? What do you think? What's your strategy on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a major part of our expansion plans. It represents, 30% of our business now. It was probably 10 or single digits a couple of years ago, pre-COVID. And so the organization has changed itself around supporting the e-commerce play. So, and that also starts with two main factors: the type of people that we're hiring. So we're hiring digital media folks, graphic designers, things that aren't as relevant maybe in the offline space, and we're putting dollars behind it, right? So I'd say more than 70% of our Marcom budget is digital. That was very different maybe 4 or 5 years ago, or definitely when I started 8, 9 years ago. So that's how we're adapting, and it's certainly a key part of our vision. Yeah.
And Yusuf, we know that you launched Buy Grow by Ghassan Aboud last December. How do you see the food value chain will transform with digitalization?
Look, we launched Buy Grow with the objective of disrupting the food market, the supply chain in the food market. We started working with our partners with the commitment that we were going to, and we are currently working with them with the commitment that we will reduce the cost of taking the goods to low trade. And we are sticking to that commitment. To achieve that, the first thing we needed to create is the experience of buying. Because there are challenges with bakalas and cafeterias. They are not used to pressing an app and doing purchases. So we put a physical network of our ambassadors, which we call a physical sales team, to ensure that they train these bakalas and cafeterias of, instead of just shouting out on a WhatsApp, actually start placing orders, and we showed them value. The value that we showed them is obviously through the pricing that we are doing with the partners. We are able to achieve those pricings with the partners because we created efficiencies in their businesses. The second thing we want to show to the principals is the value that we are creating in the information highway. How do we show that value? We put together a full business intelligence team. We are doing a lot of data mining. We are showing them the value of how this data is going to affect them. We are showing them what it means to them in dollar terms. The third thing that we did was we put our own logistics network in place. The group has invested extensively in the food supply chain, meaning buying warehouses, cool and cold chain, Northern Emirates, Abu Dhabi, as well as in Dubai, just to ensure that we are in control of our logistics also. By virtue of that, we will be able to create better value and do much more efficient aggregation than we've been doing. And now we are working with our principals on disrupting the grey market, disrupting the parallel market, because ultimately that has been our bane. I used to work for one of the government entities, quasi-government entities, which runs Dubai Sport, as well as prior to that, the largest free zone. One of the biggest bane of the industry has been this grey and parallel market. And there cannot be a better opportunity than digitization to actually hurt this part of the value chain. Because if you're going to, you want to ensure that people are buying 100% Red Bull made for this market and not buying Red Bull for the Iraq market and not buying Red Bull for the Lebanon market. It's in your interest. So whatever we've done with the interests of the larger stakeholders in mind.
Darshana, we know that data is crucial actually to map the consumer behavior. Can you give us some insights? How do you use data and technology to enhance the engagement with consumer? How you build on that?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Okay, so I would like to start by saying at Mondelez International, data and analytics are at the heart of our business. So it starts from all the way to the business model, to the consumer engagement, to the customer experience, to the operational efficiency, to the employee engagement. We rely on data. When it comes to the digital commerce world specifically, We are investing a lot on the D2C, that is direct to consumer, because this channel will give us an advantage to capitalize on the first party data. We understand we have to do a lot of heavy lifting to make this first party data work, but at least we will understand what is our consumers need and what is their shopping patterns, what is their shopping behavior, so that we can personalize for their need. We can do our activations accordingly and elevate their whole shopping experience. So that's what we are doing with data.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting. We want to hear from Sheikh about the announcements as well.
It's women in. It's to support women in business. Yeah. Sometimes to me. Okay, so I'll take it just fast, Shifa, due to the time and the agenda of the program. I just want to mention one of the important initiatives that we support the companies to be transferred as an e-commerce, having e-commerce in their line. So we opened a short-term storage warehouses for all companies in UAE, regardless they are licensed in which Emirates, to use Ajman Free Zone as a logistic hub for them to store their item and distribute it in the Northern Emirates and other Emirates. And this is to support their supply chain, their logistics, and all of, this is one of the initiatives that really we support the F&B and e-commerce industry in the lockdown period and also going further. Many other initiatives, but due to the time, I can't go through it now. We have signed with a number of retails, and we are open to sign with more retails to expose Ajman Free Zone for 100 company in F&B in the market. The last announcement to close this session, we do offer all e-commerce and F&B companies to open an Ajman Free Zone with a very special rate, taking the opportunity of Expo 2020, who decide to open his business in UAE or to expand, will get a special rates and waivers through the let's say now the 5 months that left. So please get this opportunity, refer it to your friends also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just before we finish, the main takeaway actually that we definitely need to maintain the momentum, even to accelerate our strategy to be a step ahead of the game to reach consumer faster, understand what they want, and to create for them the best experience. This is the new era of point of experience, I think. This is as a takeaway of our discussion. It's a rich discussion. We can talk for hours about this topic. Thank you so much, my panelists. Thank you so much for your patience and attention. And looking forward next to meet you in future events. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I know we're severely running out of time. Sorry, that's why we had to, I couldn't give you additional time, but thank you so much for running this. Our next speaker has extensive experience in the renewable energy industry. He's a veteran with more than 15 years of experience in Europe as well as the Middle East. As the Senior Manager of Industrial Applications for NG Solutions, he is responsible for driving the effort to decarbonize heavy industry by facilitating the adoption of energy efficient measures and solutions. Please welcome Alexander Alzamora, Senior Manager Industrial Applications at NG Solutions. Welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the first thing I would like to mention, unfortunately, my colleague Alex couldn't make it. So my name is Jesus Gutierrez. I'm happy to discuss and to talk today about sustainability and a new disruption in the industry. I think we have talked over the last 2 days a lot about the impact of the food industry in the environment and on the climate change. We have talked about how accountable is the food industry when it comes to CO2 emissions, about 30 to 40%, about the water consumption, 70%, not to mention also the impact on deforestation and biodiversity. But this presentation is not about to talk about the impact of the food industry in the environment, it's how the food industry can revert the situation, yeah, and define a path, you know, towards decarbonization. Sorry, it's me. There you are. Okay. So as we have listened from previous presentations, yeah, business as usual is no longer, you know, an option. Sustainability is becoming a part of the company's strategy. And the reason why is because even the climate change is making the companies to change. Yeah? Changes in the environment, changes in climate, changes in the weather, changes in the depletion of crops is making, you know, threatening the supply chains for some of the food industry. But these changes do not finish there. There are also changes in the demand side. You see more and more customers requesting, you know, the companies to change and to look for greener products. Yeah? Also on the regulation side, we have more stringent regulations. And here in the region, we have governments taking initiative and measures for the companies to become more sustainable. One of them, just to mention one, is the increase on the electricity and price. Yes, to put that a little bit of a stick to make sure that the companies operate more efficiently. So what are the path, no? How can the industry shift to carbon neutrality? Well, the first thing is to focus on energy. Energy is by far the major factor when it comes to CO2 emissions in the industry. Just to mention, or to give you one figure, the consumption of 1 gigawatt hour of electricity, that means in this country around 0.6 ton of CO2 emissions. That's according to the energy mix. So for a medium-sized industry, yeah, in the food industry, the consumption of the annual emission of CO2 emissions could be around 4,000 CO2 emissions, sorry. So if energy is the major driver or factor where to focus when it comes to decarbonization, technology is definitely the driver, sorry, the accelerator for the decarbonization. We have seen in the recent years different innovations that is having a very positive impact, you know, on the carbon footprint of the company. Some of these technologies are really connected to the production process and can improve the production process to make it greener. We're talking about solutions like waste to energy or heat to waste to energy, where basically we're taking the heat to convert into electricity, or we're taking the waste to convert into electricity. On the auxiliary resistance, we're also seeing a lot of different innovations, whether it's on HVAC, refrigeration, or motors and pumps, yeah? Not to mention also something that our previous panelists were talking about, which is digitalization. Digitalization is also very important when it comes to sustainability because we can use that information to make our systems more efficient, yeah? Now, the road for decarbonization has many challenges, yeah? The first one is capital investment, it's capital intensive. Some of the solutions that we are recommending to our customers can range in the amounts of $10 to $15 million. So that's a big amount of money to be deployed by our customers, yeah? The second point is some of the solutions that we could incorporate into the production process to make it greener are quite specialized, and there is a gap in terms of a knowledge gap between what the chief engineers and the production team knows and what we can offer to them, yeah? There is obviously a risk on reliability of the system. Every time that you come up with a new system, there is a natural reaction to change. And we see in many of our potential clients, the customers don't want to take the risk. The decision makers don't want to take the risk, and unfortunately, they don't have the knowledge to implement those solutions. Yeah? So, and at the end, is some of these, again, initiatives can be massive and can disrupt, the focus from the core business. So this is why we're seeing now more and more trends to the outsourcing. But before we look at that outsourcing process, I would like also to talk about how important it is to define an energy strategy in this process, in the process of decarbonization. That strategy should be very much linked with the overall sustainability strategy of the company, or I would say even with the strategy of the company. And the first step, obviously, is to identify and prioritize those energy conservation measures. In a typical energy audit that we conduct for our customers, we can identify easily between 10 to 15 energy conservation measures. Now, which are the ones who can provide the highest savings, the highest reduction in CO2 emission reductions, and at the same time have a decent return on investment? And that's one of the key issues that many of our customers have. They don't have the knowledge to differentiate. They don't have the capability to prioritize. Yeah? So this is one of the processes that we usually conduct as first stage, is to analyze and identify the priority list of initiatives. The second, obviously, is to define yearly improvement targets, and based on those targets, to be able to monitor the energy savings performance year on year. As we recognize, some of these initiatives can be quite demanding for our clients, and we see more and more a trend towards outsourcing these initiatives. Yeah? Again, because either there are capital risk in the investment, on these initiatives, or because our clients want to focus on the core production process and give these initiatives to a third party. So let me just, to finalize, give you 3 success stories that give you a glance of what can be done for some of the industries in the food industry. The first one is a green pack, where we're looking at the recovery of waste, heat, and reuse of water. So in this case, the company was spending a lot of money on gas and on water, and basically what we use is to use the heat coming from the production process and to reuse the water and to basically reheat the water for the production. Yeah? This was a 10-year project financed by co-financed by the European Union, which is still in place. The second one is a good example about the outsourcing process I was mentioning before. This company is a subsidiary of Danone, based in China. The client wanted to basically double the production capacity, and obviously they don't want to take the full burden of the capital investment on the different auxiliary systems. So we reached an agreement with the client whereby we build, operate, and after 10 years we will transfer the full facilities to the client. And we will invest in the most energy efficiency systems to make sure that the operating costs for the clients are minimized, and obviously we can reduce the carbon footprint. Yeah? Again, this was a project that of 10 years, whereby basically we call it cooling as a services. We are billing the client based on the cooling and other services that we are providing to the customer. And the third case study I wanted to share with you, again, is talking about heat recovery. In this case, it's a manufacturing company in Spain, brewery company, with sister company, which is providing the bottling. And here, basically, what we develop is a heat recovery system. We're basically reducing by more than 50% the gas consumption. Yeah? The payback of this project was 3.5 years. So that's about it. Thank you very much for your attention. I know it's late in the day, and really appreciate it. Yeah? If you have any questions? Thank you. Yeah.
No, he's right there. Simi?
Hello and good evening, everyone. It's wonderful being here and wonderful seeing you all, like-minded people gathered together and listening to all the industry leaders sharing technology that can move our industry forward. I know we have been going through a lot of presentations the past couple of days, and I hope you do have some energy left to go through another one. But on the bright side, I think the event organizers did a pretty good job planning the event because they left the best one for the last. So here I am representing Grundfos. I am Sahil Khan. I am part of the regional business development team for India, Middle East, Central Asia, and Africa. And I'm heading the energy optimization services for MENAP, that's Middle East, North Africa, and Pakistan, for the industry segment at Grundfos. And in today's presentation, I have some interesting topics lined up for you. The first one being giving you an introduction to the world of Grundfos. Second one is what we do as Grundfos to optimize energy. And third one is we'll be discussing a unique way of controlling the filtration systems that can save water, energy, and chemicals. So let's get started. I know majority of you must have already heard or experienced Grundfos, but for the very few who have not, Grundfos is a water solutions company with our core business being pumping solutions. What we do is we support two of the sustainability development goals, that's SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, and SDG 13, that's climate action. And through our solutions, what we intend to do is we want to contribute, make this a sustainable place, and through our solutions contribute to the two SDGs laid down. So that was from a global perspective. Now coming down to a much regional setup. The Dubai office that we have here is our regional headquarters for India, Middle East, Central Asia, and Africa. Within the region, we have 3 production factories, 8 sales companies, 20 branch offices, 50 authorized distributors and partners, and drilling down even further to the area MENAP, that's Middle East, North Africa, and Pakistan. I think our biggest strength here is our team. We have a team of 200 plus spread across the area. We have our application experts, our sales team, our service team, our after-sales support. So we make sure that we deliver what we promise. So why look at pumping systems for energy optimization in industry? One of the first things that I always tell everyone is that pumping systems in industry is a part load industry. What I mean by part load industry is that the demand varies from summer to winter, owing to your production seasonalities, and in some cases, day to night. But in majority of the cases, what happens is that even though your demand is varying, you still have pumping systems that's running at full capacity. And as a result of this, and adding to other factors like lower efficiency, poor controls, incorrect design, pumps contribute to 10% of global energy consumption. This is a staggering value that we, as Grundfos, believe can be optimized, and this is where we believe we can help do better for the society. So what do we do as Grundfos to contribute to the two SDGs laid down by our management teams? We offer energy optimization services in 3 levels. Level 0 is the replacement, level 1 is the energy check, and level 2 is the energy audit. Replacement, as the name suggests, is an upgrade of the existing system. This could be an older system that you're upgrading with the newer system. Here, you increase the efficiency of the product to bring in the energy savings. The level 1 energy check and level 2 energy audit is a much more advanced offering. Energy check is a complementary offering from Grundfos, where we come to your facility, inspect the pumping systems, see is there a way to optimize the system. Taking it one level forward is the energy audit, where we as Grundfos bring in our own equipment like the flow meters, the pressure transmitters, energy loggers, log this information. It could be anywhere between 1 day to 1 week, depending on the application in the industry. And through this, through the logged information, we then study the information, understand the system, understand the efficiency, and see what can be done in order to optimize the complete system. And what you get in return is a detailed report, the audit report. The audit report is prepared as per the ISO standards that gives you information such as savings, both in terms of energy, in terms of the monetary value. Second is the return on investment or the payback period. Third is it will give you an indication of what will be the reduction in carbon emissions for companies looking to have a much more greener image. Fourth one is the load profile that we have considered in our evaluation. And finally is the conclusion. We as Grundfos, we will provide you recommendation on what can be done in order to optimize the system. This could be something simple as a product-to-product upgrade, or it could be a little more advanced, where we will specify control algorithms that's developed specifically for applications. Or it could be a combination between the products as well as the digital layer, that's the control system. So that's from the energy optimization. Now moving on to my favorite part of the presentation, the smart filtration suite. Now when we talk about environmental footprint in an industrial application, we talk about 4 aspects: energy, water, chemical, and carbon. And one of the application that has all 4 of these aspects combined in an industry is the water treatment process. And Smart Filtration Suite is a patented control algorithm that's developed by Grundfos that makes sure that we reduce the use of water, energy, chemicals, and making the system much more energy efficient. So how does the system look like? In a traditional system or a conventional system, what happens is that the system is pre-programmed to a timer-based setup. It has 4 components. You have the pressure pumps that pressurizes the water. You have the filters. You have the membranes that filters the water. Then you have the dosing and the backwash pumps that is used for cleaning. And in the traditional setup, you have a timer-based control. So the PLC that's programmed just tells the system, okay, I need my production to run for 10 minutes. I need to clean the system for 2 minutes. And this cycle repeats itself continuously. But we don't take the parameter that's most important in this system. That's the quality of water. Through the Smart Filtration Suite, what we do is that we add a digital layer. Here, we take into account the real-time parameters, and we take into account the quality of water. And through this, what happens is that the system now analyzes the real-time parameters. It takes into account the real-time system, the quality of water, and based on this, it then analyzes, okay, previously I was doing the production for 10 minutes and my cleaning for 2 minutes. Is there a way that I could increase my production to 15 minutes without compromising on the quality of water? Can I, instead of doing a 2 minutes backwash or a 2 minutes cleaning process, can I reduce it to 30 seconds? And through this, what happens is that with the reduced cleaning process, you are now saving water, you're saving chemicals. With the real-time analytics, you're saving the energy. And overall, to add a cherry on top, you now have increased production. That means to say that even though you have the same inputs, you have a much more output coming out from it. So here is a case story from Permionics, India. We inspected a state-of-the-art water treatment system. And through this, with the implementation and adding a digital layer called the Smart Filtration Suite, we managed to save energy by 7%, chemicals by 68%, and had an annual savings of 11,000 euros that corresponds to 48,000 dirhams. To sum it all up, Smart Filtration Suite is a patented control algorithm developed specifically for water treatment application that reduces the energy, water, chemicals in the system, makes the system much more sustainable, makes it cleaner, cheaper, and better. With that, I will end my part of the presentation and leave the floor open to any questions if you may have.
Shahil, I really appreciate it. And I'm sorry I wasn't here to properly introduce you as much as you deserve. It's my fault. I did make a run for a cup of coffee. You will all forgive me for doing so. It's been a long day and I woke up super early. Shahil, your experience exceeds your age. So thank you so much for that very informative presentation. I did want to allude to the fact that Shahil is a certified energy manager with 4 years of experience in the field of retrofit and energy optimization. Don't ask me to explain what that is, he will, and he has done so very well. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Right, so this brings us to the final session, and I'm very excited about it, and I spoke about it several times. You have seen how excited I am. This has to do with the Innovation Lab and the program that we discussed on day 1 and day 2. And we saw this wonderful short video today representing the project of young Emirati students into the food industry. They were mentored, as we said, by business insiders and professionals, and they were taken along this wonderful journey of developing their own product. So what we're going to do now is meet the students and the mentors and the business insiders and the manufacturers who helped them develop this product. We're going to ask them a couple questions about how the tools they were given helped them develop their idea and what we can do forward to basically multiply this experience and do it on a bigger scale, offering more opportunities and training for young Emiratis. Thank you. I believe this is my seat. This is all happening as you're watching, so I love how spontaneous this is. I'm just going to get across. Somebody forgot their lovely Mont Blanc pen. I believe that might be yours, Sumit. Quite expensive to leave here. Is that yours? Okay, it's here. Don't forget your Mont Blanc. No? Can't hear you. Right, so I will start by inviting our lovely students. Bear with me as I get your names across. And I will ask you to give them a big round of applause. They're young and they're a little bit nervous and probably have not taken part in such events in the past. So you will be patient with them and we'll encourage them. Don't worry, don't be nervous. I'm right here. We're just going to have a fun conversation. So I will welcome Shaima Al-Zaabi, along with Roeha Abdullah Al-Hafiti and Sheikha Farusha. Come on, I know you're hesitant, but come on, it's your time. Come on stage. انتوا فين؟ هم هنا? Are you here? Couple of them were a little nervous. I don't know where you are. Is that you? هم فين? Okay, sorry. So we have changed the... Right, okay, fine. So there's been a little bit of a change on the attendees. Fine, forgive me for that. Let's invite, yes, I did invite Roeya Abdullah Al-Hafiti. I don't know if she's here. Please to join us. We have one male, Bishir Zamout, Mrs. May Muawad, and Bakhita Ziyad Raisi. Yes, I see a couple of you here. You're welcome. Come on in. Come sit. Ta'alu, sit next to me. This is going to be fun. I promise. Don't worry. Just give me my cup. I believe I don't need this chair. Yeah, you can sit here. Oh, hello. Here you are. Where were you? You were like me, getting coffee. Have a seat. You were caught. It's okay. Nice to meet you all. We're going to basically invite as well. I'm not sure if I can invite okay, let's invite the lab mentors as well, and we will have a session all together. Mrs. Samir Al-Qaisi from Emirates Macaroni Factory, Mrs. Yanna Rayan from Hunter Foods, and Mrs. Milena Boskovic, Al Ain Farms. Please join us, and we will make this, we will make this one-time session together, getting insight from both sides. The trainees and the mentors as well. You all recognize her. Oh, you brought the chips. You did bring it. Wonderful. Okay, this is the chips we've seen in the video. I've been wanting to taste these chips from day one, actually before that. So hopefully I get to do that at the end of this session. Let me start with the stars of this panel, which is you, the students. And you'll forgive me, I'll start with the ladies first. So I'll ask you, please, to tell us what university you're from. Just introduce a little bit briefly who you are, what did you study, and which university you come from. Would you like to start?
Yes, sure. So my name is Bkhita. I'm a graduate from UAE University. I have studied food science, and here's one of my great teachers, Dr. Sajid. He's here to witness me today. I'm thankful for his being. I was working with my project with Emirates Macaroni Factory.
Yes.
And it was really a great opportunity, so maybe
all right, I'm going to stand up so I can see you better. I'm going to get to your project. I know it is. It's very interesting. Don't tell us now. Let's hear a little bit more from you.
Okay, hello everyone. It's my pleasure to be here in Future Forum 2021 and Expo 2020. Let me introduce myself. My name is Maima Awad. I'm a graduate from Faculty of Agriculture, Cairo University. My study is reclamation and cultivation desert lands. And I worked with Sadia, my project. I worked with Sadia. And that's all.
Okay, we'll get to your project in a bit.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hi everyone. My name is
Go ahead.
Hi everyone. My name is Rouaya Al-Lahfati, and I am a finance graduate from Zayed University, and I am currently an incubatee who is working with Al Ain Farms.
Wonderful. Nice to meet you.
Okay. I'm Bashir Zumut. I'm a graduate from University of Wollongong. First of all, thank you all for actually surviving the day and being here with us. It's a pleasure, and thank you for the lovely hosting throughout the day. And of course, thank you to the lovely mentors who've been by our side the whole time. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you all. And
tell us a little bit more about your major and what you studied.
I'm 25. I actually studied something completely different.
Good.
I did something in computer science, IT.
Okay.
And my major was gaming.
Okay.
But I've always had a passion for product design and designing things. And this is where I'm going to talk about my project later on.
Okay, which university?
University of Wollongong.
Okay, wonderful. We have quite a representation of universities. You can keep that mic with you, only here, by the way. I'd love to hear a little bit more about you as mentors, and then I'm going to get them to describe their products, and then we'll go back and forth so that we can make this an engaging panel. Please go ahead.
Right, and thank you, Jessie. My name is Milan. I'm from Al Ain Farms. So we were initially approached by the Food and Beverage Group for the initiative, and we from Al Ain Farms, we have welcomed it with open hands, because for us it was very important to give them access to tools that will help them develop and execute their innovation ideas, and also secondly, to give them a safe space. They could come, learn, develop, and execute, make the commercialization. Would you like me to speak a bit more about the learnings or just introduction?
We'll do that one time. I let them describe their project. We will get a little bit more details about learnings and how that was done. Thank you.
Hello,
you know what I'm coming to do, right?
You're coming for the chips.
Yes, I'm coming for the chips.
My name is Yan. I'm from Hunter Foods. We have been very privileged to work with Food and Beverage Manufacturing Group and under Khalifa Fund with FBMG Innovation Lab to work with Shaima. Unfortunately, she's not here.
Yes.
But I'm sure that you have seen her in the video to develop Emirati spice mix bazaar on our Hunter's Gourmet hand-cooked potato chips. So it has been a fantastic journey and also an emotional one, as you've seen in the video. So thanks for having me here.
Fantastic story. Shaima is already a star because of that video. We played it yesterday and today. In case you haven't seen it, this is one of the, Shaima is not here, but this is the chips product that was developed because of a young Emirati's vision and idea. And Hunters took this very seriously by developing into an actual product. And you put the story as well on the box. I want to see that later, right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Good. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, it's working.
Hi, good evening. My name is Samir Al-Qaisi. I'm the general manager of Emirates Macaroni Factory. Actually, I had the pleasure to meet Bakhita to work on her idea, actually. And so far, so good. We are almost there. In a couple of weeks, we will see the product in the market. And hopefully, it will be a new business, actually, not just an idea.
Good. Let's start with Bakhita, since you mentioned her, and she's so excited to tell you about her project, as she told me. Tell us, what is your project, your product, sorry, and how would you pitch it? So imagine, you know, they actually haven't heard about your project.
Exactly.
How did you pitch your idea?
Okay. So first of all, that we know everyone is busy, even during their work time. So the idea was, when they first wanted something that could reach people as a small canteen and in a places while the pandemic was there. So I came up with this idea that we can make a vending machine and we can use their product of macaroni. They were already having the noodles cup, instant noodle cups, if you haven't heard about it. So the machine was that we designed a machine, a smart machine, not just a normal machine. Believe me, it can do a lot to a vending machine. So this machine would allow you to buy your product and then you can prepare it on site. It takes no time. You wouldn't even waste your lunchtime to prepare your food. After that, you can just consume it and go back. It would only take few minutes, not even minutes, seconds, which is really a great idea. And the smart point of it that the machine is not just like the other machines that we see over in UAE. It has a lot of different features, such as it could analyze data. Whoever had a machine, a vending machine, that can analyze data. You could know that what your customer wants, which is really amazing. And one of the things that we are here supporting the local production of instant pasta. Because as we can see, in UAE, there is no instant pasta that was made in UAE. So this is the only brand, Emirati brand, that produces instant pasta.
Fantastic. So Bakhita basically came up with the idea for people on the run, which is the majority of us here in the room, who like pasta and don't have time to cook, and they can simply walk into the machine. Basically, a pasta vending machine is how you described it, using a product that's already there and available. Wonderful idea. I'm going to go to the next one before I come to you. You told me about your idea and I thought it was fantastic, and we will tell them why. Tell us, what is your product?
Right, so initially I pitched 3 new products to Al Ain Farms, which were 3 different lactose-free cheeses. And I came up with this idea because I personally am lactose intolerant, and I found it really hard to find any products in the market. And even though there were very few products, none of them were actually locally made. So I realized that there was a gap in the market that we could take advantage of. So that's why I decided to pitch my idea to Al Ain Farms, because it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I'd love to see more local products meet the local demand in the UAE rather than having to export products from the outside.
Fantastic idea for people as well as I am. I am obsessed. I'm a Lebanese freak. I eat Lebanese all the time, and I am lactose intolerant. For us, we cannot find a lactose-free Lebanese easily in this market. She came up with lactose-free Lebanese, which I thought was really, really very, very creative, but also based a lot on your own needs. So this is another idea of how entrepreneurs come up with ideas based on a problem they are facing. You yourself are lactose intolerant. I will come to you, but give us May, a little bit of what I know you actually did something a little bit different. Initially, you started as a product idea, but then you ended up interning and working on the Agri-Tech report, which is quite a wealth of data in the industry. Tell us about your experience with this program.
Okay. I participated in the internship with FBMG. For 4 months, I was part of the research cell team in the Agri-Tech report. Actually, my experience in this internship giving me the opportunity to learn the latest trends and the challenges in the agriculture sector from 3 different perspectives. Yes. Including academy, government policies, and emerging startups, which giving me opportunity to apply and link between what I studied in my and learned in my college.
Field. Great. So it gave you more interest in what you're already looking forward to develop. I know the Agri-Tech report is about to be published, right?
Yes.
Not finished yet.
I think we have finished, but I don't know. Maybe it's okay.
It's about to be published soon.
Yes.
So it's really nice to see someone such as yourself contributing to such a crucial wealth of data. Go ahead. I know you want to tell us about your product, so go ahead. How did you pitch your idea?
So again, food is something that's very valuable to me, trust me. And it actually goes back to the primitive times where humans were just being there, sleeping, eating, and mating. So I feel like this is something that we all should focus on, what goes in our bodies, how healthy it is, and all that. And the best way to do that is packaging it and transporting it, which I felt there's a huge gap. And I wanted to bridge that between the companies and the manufacturers, and then to the retail market, and eventually to the consumer. And I was able to come up with a couple of different designs for packages, including juice, yogurt, and the actual box that we think about.
Tell us briefly, what is different about your design? We all know the typical juice boxes packaging. What is different?
So different companies have different designs. We took the best practices out of all of them, and we came up with different design. My designs consist of, for example, packaging them in as small a space as possible, and at the same time reducing the plastic or reducing the materials used. And eventually being able to place it in a packs of, different packs, like packs of 9, packs of 16s, in a way that it's stacked well on the shelves for the market, so that even for retailers, they can make much more space out of the, much more money out of the space used.
Great. Milana, when the ideas came forward to you, what caught your attention, and what necessary tools they needed to develop already brilliant ideas? So all the ideas I heard are things that are needed.
Yeah, so basically when we were initially presented with the concepts on incubator, I would say 2 things caught my attention and were actually the biggest learning throughout the whole process. First one was the notion that even them in their young age, I was mostly surprised and pleasantly, in a way, pleased that in their young age they are very much thinking commercially about the applications and development, and they are already thinking as future leaders of the industry. So that was a really a blessing to see, because it gives me hope that the industry will bloom in that way. Let me just take an example to what Bishar has said. He has taken an idea which we in the industry consider as default. For example, the plastic crates we use on a daily basis is just a secondary outer packaging. It's not a primary consumer-facing packaging. He has taken the whole idea, he has reconstructed it from scratch, making the idea usable in more variants, more levels, more materials, more efficient, and more usable for different kinds of types of packaging. A second thing also, when we look at the food industry, because it is so highly competitive, it is full of trials and errors. We all go different kinds of colleges and schools. We develop our practices through error as we go on in the years. For me, the second biggest learning regarding the tools they need is the perseverance and resilience they would need to develop. And I think they've shown a great level of example of that by approaching this challenge very systematically and analytically as a professional of 15 or 20 years in the industry would do. So in order to help them further develop that, the tools they require was firstly understanding how the whole processes work in the current practices, and what kind of possible applications they could use in the lab or the farms or even the logistics and the transport to test their ideas across. And hopefully, unfortunately, we made that happen across the tours and the farms and the team helping out. But interestingly also, their coming to our current facilities has sparked also a lot of internal discussions. How do we do what we do? And what will we need to change? What are the actual commercial repercussions of the implementation of the new ideas?
Great. Yana and Samir, I'd like to ask you the same question, basically. Where did you come in? What tools did they need for them to develop this product? What did you teach them, essentially?
For us, I think when the opportunity comes, we're actually really, really excited because we just launched our Middle Eastern flavors this year with shawarma, fattoush, and shakshuka. So
stop it! I'm hungry. Stop it! Just
I know
stop.
it's like dinner time already. So, and then when Shaima came to us with very authentic stories, authentic. Flavors that are respecting to her culture, her traditions, and especially for us being a UAE homegrown company, and with the upcoming 50th anniversary for UAE, we just thought, oh my gosh, this is just such a good opportune time to come together and to innovate and to put something that a bazaar flavor or the spices is such a it's a necessity, it's a must-have in all the Emirati family pantries onto something that, premium hand-cooked potato chips that you can snack on rather than just on the meal, on the dishes. So it just something coming together at such a good time with all the things happening, in Dubai, in UAE. And we also find that her stories are very, her grandmother, and I think everybody could think about the aroma coming from the kitchen.
It was very powerful.
Right, the spices, the grinders, and especially when the auntie, her aunt was talking about her mother. So you're talking about 3 generations, and of course, this is just bazaar spices connecting many generations.
Yeah,
so
for sure, I'll tell you, it's the storytelling part of it that makes it more powerful. I mean, Hunters already has a name in the industry, but for me as a consumer, I wanted to try that chips because of her grandmother's story, for sure. It's very, very powerful. Samir, the same question to you. What did you teach?
Actually, the whole point was to start any nice idea. The idea was very simple, very doable, actually.
Yeah.
And it was a win-win between us because we launched recently the instant pasta in the market, and we were not thinking about the vending machine. Normally, we do distribution in different channels in the market, hypermarket, retail, and modern trade, or HoReCa. The point what Bakhita brought to us is actually to use a vending machine to be in different places and to create our own place to sell the goods. Normally, simply, we brought her actually to our company. We have fueled the growth committee already in our company. These are like committee between marketing, sales, and industrial team, looking after all the innovations of the company and prioritizing the projects. So the basic things that actually we try to coach her on is how to prioritize the project first, and for sure, her project was a star in our list. The second point is the project management, the tools, the milestones, how to think about the project, little bit feasibility study of the project. Does it financially really have a sense of commercial business, sustainable business? These are the things that actually we try to support Bakhita, how to think about projects, how to convert an idea to a real business. These are the basics, the simple...
Yeah, of course. These are the things they haven't gained experience in yet. Look, I have 1 minute and 40. You see the numbers countdown. I'm going to give you 30 seconds each to tell me where you would like to see your product next. What do you want to do next?
I would really love to see the products in a lot of places, and a lot of people that would love to place our machine in their areas, which is really a good investment. And I hope that would grow bigger.
I will tell you, the first time I will see this vending machine, I will buy and eat it because I don't have time to cook. May, where would you like to see your involvement in the internship take you next?
Actually, I want to continue to researching and gain experience to be aware with the agriculture sector, and I'm looking for a good opportunity to start career here in UAE.
Good.
Personally, I would love to see my products being sold around the UAE across different stores, because one problem with being lactose intolerant is that you don't find the product everywhere.
No.
So it's really important for them to be accessible. And then after, getting them all around the UAE, I'm hoping maybe we could also think about outside the UAE, so that more people can have access to these products.
I will buy your labne. Just let me know what you end up naming it, so I know it, and I will buy your lactose-free labne. And you're the last. You have less than 5 seconds.
Unfortunately, our product is going to take some time because it takes a while to build that ecosystem for the companies to do. Fortunately for us, companies like Alain Farms are supportive with that, and hopefully we'll start with them where they'll bring that mentality to us. So currently we're 3D printing them, and hopefully we'll get them into the market as soon as possible. And inshallah, most of the companies will start using our products as a standard for the packaging, inshallah.
Fantastic. Well, you all have very inspiring stories. It certainly inspired me, and I hope it inspired other students as well to take part of the program, and for the program to get more support to get developed on a national and a bigger scale. Thank you so much for putting yourself out there and putting your ideas out there, and I'm sure it will be developed and you'll all reach where you want to be. With that, this brings me to the end of this session. I'd like to invite, please, Mr. Saleh Louta, who's worked a lot on the innovation program, for some closing remarks. And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be with you all for the past 2 days. Good luck to you all, and I'm sure I'll see you next time.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, thank you for your efforts.
You can stay. Yes, stay on stage. خليكم.
Thank you for the efforts, and thank you for participating in this great initiative we have taken. I have to admit that this initiative is the closest to my heart, because I feel we are giving back to the society. We are engaging society with us, but make sure that you have your commissions signed whenever the sales happen, huh? No doubt that it is a great opportunity for all the companies who participated, from Al Ain to Emirates Macaroni to Hunter. I'm sure that you get a lot of insight from real consumer insight. And the young generation, they are our future customer. And they are the consumer who we have to make sure that we are really meeting their demand. So I was really happy to see them with us today. And I have to promise you that the next version of Innovation Lab will be bigger, will be more engaging, and will be more participant from all the company we have in our group. So I really thank you all for being with us today. Thank you. Thank you. Sumit, now it's back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saleh. What an energizing way to finish, really, with the future of food, the four of you here. What an intense, exciting 2 days it has been. Let's have a look how these 2 days went. So that brings us to the end. We hope you enjoyed these 2 days. We hope you learned, you managed to share with your colleagues. And we look forward to seeing you at the next Future Food. I can't finish without thanking enough my colleagues at the Food and Beverage Manufacturers Group, Wahid, you and your team, at Jamaat Events, Biju, you and your team. These people have worked tirelessly last few months, last 2-3 weeks, day and night. So big thanks to all of you. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.